like to call to order the Bucksport Town Council meeting for August 8th, 2013. Roll call, please, Kathy.
Mike Owenstein.
Here.
Glenn Finley.
Here.
David Key.
Here.
David King.
Here.
Frank Dunbar.
Present.
Brian Lehman.
Here, Kathy.
Robert Howard.
Present.
Okay, item 3, consider minutes of previous meetings.
I'm giving out the April 4th, 11th, and 18th of the last meeting.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have motion and second to approve the minutes for April, no, what was it?
4th, 11th, and 18th.
Okay. Okay, anything further from the council? All those in favor? Motion passes. Item 4, receive and review correspondence and documents, if any. Michael?
You have in your packet just, 2 or 3 things. The first one is a draft policy developed by the RSU for use of the school facilities, including the Performing Arts Center and the other facilities that they have, and they just wanted to pass this on for your review and comment. They have not. This is just a draft policy that they will be passing later this summer. The next is a letter from Perkins Thompson, who represents us in the tax rate case against Bangor Gas, and as you know, that they accepted the 2008 ruling, but they immediately filed against the 10, 11, 12, and 13 years, and our responses to those filings have been submitted. This is a letter just letting you know they've been submitted. I didn't include all the filings. If you want them, I can certainly provide them to you. They're fairly large.
Will we go through the whole process again, or will we get in your opinion?
It'll probably be
Because we have the written decision on
that will have
2008.
no bearing on it. It'll
It
probably
will
go
have
through
no
the
bearing
entire
on
new
these
process.
again?
It'll be a whole year before anything happens, and then 2 years
good.
after that.
And how much did that process cost us last time? 70-some thousand?
Yeah, I think I'd have to look.
Close to 80,000,
That's for 1 year.
Uh,
Yeah, there would be new testimony and it'd be a completely new process.
And if we win and the tax assessment stays at current value,
Mhm.
the tax revenue would be 74,000.
About 60, I think.
About 60,000.
60 to 70.
Spend 80 to get 60.
Mhm.
There you go.
But yeah.
That's what they're hoping for.
Yeah. Well, it's not just Bangor Gas you have to think about. It's
Oh,
everyone
no,
else would
no.
do the same thing. The next set of paperwork is the road salt joint purchasing program for this winter that we always participate in, and this is just the paperwork for that. That's several sheets there, and that's all that I have.
Our plans to purchase the same amount of salt as last year, because we had talked about going to a different program.
Yes, but we do not need additional salt for that program. Well, that's part of where the savings is. We don't have to purchase any sand or much sand. We may keep some on hand, but we don't have to purchase additional salt.
Mike, just a quick question before we go on, the community use of school facilities.
Mhm.
Don't we have some sort of agreement with them already on some of these facilities?
We do. This is just an updated policy.
Right, but does it change our current policy?
No, not
I don't think there's
significantly.
any changes in this, but as far as the RSU is concerned, any policy they have to review within a certain period of time.
Mhm.
Right.
So
Right. Well, I'd like to know if there is any differences, that's
I
all.
don't
think there is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else have any questions on those items? And we've got the treasury warrants and the financials in our packets also. Is that part of this? A and B?
I don't usually get those. I don't think there are any. I don't think they were provided.
I think we got them last.
Yeah, I got
Maybe last week? Okay.
I think they were last meeting, I believe.
Okay. Typically, they're the first meeting of the month.
I think that's normally, okay, we're on to item 5 then, right?
Yes.
Okay, a representative from Paper Talks has requested time to address the council. Okay.
Yeah.
That representative here?
Good evening, gentlemen. How are you tonight? I've taken a look at your agenda, and it is quite extensive.
How'd you get first, anyway?
I'm not exactly sure. If I've got any daylight and no more rain, I've got to go home and do some more painting on my house. So,
There you go.
I'm hoping that everybody here is familiar with Paper Talks. It's something that the town of Bucksport has participated in for the last 11 years. We have good representation from Orland and from Bucksport in this year's book, and I'm looking forward to the publication that'll come out the last week of August, first week of September, depending on print and travel. In your packet, you'll notice that the price structure is $100 off what would be our price, which would be a municipal price, $900, and 200 copies of the magazine to the town office this year. And I'm here to answer any of your questions and not take up any more of your time, because I'm sure you've looked at it and you've weighed the options one way or the other of what you'd like to do, and all my talking isn't going to change anything. So, but if you have any questions, please don't hesitate.
Questions from the council? Are we voting on whether to fund this? Is this or is this just a pep talk?
No, it's definitely my request for you to fund it for this year.
Okay.
Yeah, the request that I highlighted on the second
Right.
page of the
Well,
handout.
I think in the past, we've had this discussion, and at one time, because of tight budgets, we had thought, well, maybe that's a savings that we could have. But after hearing from a lot of people in town, I think we reconsidered. And, a lot of people really like this magazine, and we thought it was a pretty good investment. People like to read about what happened in Bucksport and surrounding communities, and I would support funding it the same as we did last year. But how's anybody else feel on that?
I agree too.
Yeah, one year we went a little more because we were looking for money for the veterans, and that worked out
Right.
good. And so I think it's a good, it's well talked about paper in town. so.
Thank you.
So moved.
Second.
Anything further from the council? All those in favor? Opposed, motion passes.
That money typically comes out of undesignated fund balance.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Item 6, consider resolve R 2014-24 to confirm the appointment of James Bradney, is that it? To serve in the interim position of Bucksport Health Planning Director.
The coalition and myself went through a very lengthy process to try and replace Mary Jane, and we interviewed several candidates, and James was the unanimous choice of the committee to the coalition, and then the coalition recommended him to me. And I support that nomination and brought him to you tonight. If anyone wants to speak on that, they're certainly welcome
Would you
to.
like to address the council?
Sure, I'd love to. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. I just wanted to take a minute to introduce myself to the council. My name is James Bradney, and it's my great pleasure to be recommended for this position as Health Planning Director. I understand it's an interim position, and I'll be working closely with the Bucksport Bay Healthy Communities Coalition. I'm very much looking forward to that. I've worked for the past 8 years as a social worker and a substance abuse counselor. I've worked closely with the legal system in juvenile diversion programs, and I've worked with youth correctional facilities, and I've worked in a variety of different agency functions as a behavioral health therapist, and I've also worked closely developing a community care team down in my hometown, which is Belfast, Maine. So I'm excited for the recommendation. I hope that I'm approved, and looking forward to getting to know you all better and to getting to know everybody in the community better, and all of the collaborating partners.
I'm sure it was explained to you very carefully of that the town's commitment is for this year, and it's up to the coalition, which
Correct.
you'll be a big part of,
Yeah.
is to get funding down the road.
Right.
The town will still, I believe, you people will be able to come on the social service evening to ask for funding, which we've done in the past.
Okay.
and feel free to do that. But the overall, actually, I guess your connection with the town is going to be somewhat different than it has been in the past.
Yeah. Well, I understand that. Thank you for reiterating that. I feel confident based on the long history and the good work that has been done up until this point with Mary Jane and everyone else involved, Dr. Gaffney and others, that we shouldn't have too much trouble getting some grant funding in place to sustain the position beyond the next year. So.
Yeah. Anybody else on the council have any questions?
No, good luck.
Okay, thanks very much.
Anything, let's, have we got a motion on the floor?
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the resolve. Is there anything further from the public? Anything further from the council? Yes, sir.
How is it set up that we're doing? I thought they were going to be on their own now. Are we still
They're going to be on their own July of next year.
July of next
This-
year?
they're-
So it's still under
The town
us.
agreed to employ the position through this year, but that's the end
Up
of
to a
it.
certain funds.
Right.
Right,
I think it was,
35,000.
was it 20?
27.
Well, we added
Yeah.
25,000, total of 25,000.
And if
Right.
that money runs out before the fiscal year ends, that's
Okay. and
something they'll have to deal with.
Did all the background checks done through your hiring
We're in the
process?
process, yeah,
Okay.
yes, yes.
All right. I'm just curious.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Welcome aboard. Good luck. Okay, item 7, consider resolve R 2014-25 to accept the recommendations of the Ordinance Committee to eliminate parking on Main Street in front of Jed Proudy Building. Ordinance, is that you, Michael?
No, that's
Mr. Howard?
Mr. Howard.
Yeah, we had a meeting, and at that meeting, I think it was Dave Mylan that presented us with a survey of the local businesses and concerned people in that area. And the overwhelming response is that they had no problem with the parking spots disappearing. There is still some planning on whether the fountain will work or not, but the parking spaces, the recommendation from the ordinance committee was to eliminate the 2 parking spaces. We also talked about a period of time. There should be, are there signs out there? I didn't even look to
Not
them
until
before I
it gets
came
approved.
down. But we're gonna put signs out there that there's no parking. We're gonna give the general public a window or a little leverage to let it sink in that there's no parking there, but it will become no parking.
The plan was for this to take effect September 1st, and we'll put it in the enterprise and post it throughout, at the spaces themselves.
Was you gonna paint lines?
Right, gonna blacken out the white lines that are there now.
Okay.
Okay, so what is the recommendation from the Ordinance Committee to eliminate those parking spots? Okay, how would the council like to
So
proceed?
moved.
Seconded.
Okay, we have motion and second to approve the resolve. Anything further from the public? Further from the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Item 8, consider resolve R 2014-26 to approve the program income plan for 2013 CDBG housing program.
At the last council meeting, there was a public hearing held to approve the program plan, and there were questions about the funding mechanisms and the income guidelines, and this just outlines that. This is, Ron Harriman provided this to me, and thought it'd be useful for the town just to approve this, to make it part of the overall program. It just outlines what was already part of the plan, but this just specifies it a little clearer.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have motion and second to approve the resolve. Anything further from the public? Further from the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Item 9, consider resolve R 2014-27 to transfer $170,000 in funds from the general surplus account to Route 46 Highway Improvement Expense Account.
This $170,000 would total the $590,000 that the voters have approved to pay for Route 46, and it's necessary to pay for the next resolve for the next pay estimate. So far, we've put in at 420, and this would bring us up to the 590. There's still some additional funds available from previously scheduled work that we're going to apply here as well.
Okay, now, have we received anything from the state yet?
Yes, we received 252,000.
And we still have more to come from the state?
Well, yeah, we'll keep submitting more bids.
And when that money comes in, does that go back into the general account?
Well, we'll have paid it out.
It's all coming out of the general account,
Right, yeah, yeah, it's
So
all-
anything coming back from the state should go back into the general?
Well, it'll go, anything comes back from the state, we'll just pay, like, because we, in essence, pay all the bills.
Right,
And the state reimburses us for that, their portion of it.
right.
So the money that we get will be paid to Wardwell, but if there's,
So
you know
it's a
what I'm
total
saying?
of over $1 million.
Right,
Well, yeah, because we're kind of paying them before we get money from the state.
right,
so
right.
it-
But yeah, we reimburse the general fund account for anything we have to pull to cover,
Yeah, okay.
yes. Which we will have to do that.
Okay, how's the council like to proceed?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we motion and second to approve the resolve. Anything further from the public? Further from the council? All those in favor? Opposed, motion passes. Item 10, consider resolve R 2014-28 to approve expenditures totaling $129,488.72 for payment estimate on golf course-related construction of Route 46.
Again, this is the next pay estimate, which we need the 170 you just approved to pay this.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have motion and second approval of resolve. Anything further from the public? Further from the council? All those in favor? Opposed, motion passes. Item 11, consider resolve R 2014-29 to accept the recommendations of the Finance Committee for improvements to the information technology infrastructure. This is you.
Yes. Yeah, we just met on this, and we had talked about our, I see this broken into two resolves, and I'm trying to figure out.
One was to create the new CIP line.
Right.
And then one was to transfer the money into it to change over to the new
Okay.
system.
Which one is this one then?
This is to create the line.
Because that's written under, okay, I thought it was written under the second one, but I guess it isn't. Okay. Well, we have an issue here with not keeping up computers. I mean, department heads have been putting in for money to repair computers, usually when they about ready to explode or they've already exploded. And we decided, the committee decided that it would be a good idea to have a technology line in our budget. And so we have a better understanding of what computers we have, what needs replacement on a periodic basis. So we have a capital improvement line to do that. And we would include anything like the cameras on the waterfront to computers on people's desks. And eventually, we're probably going to need down the road, we've discussed needing a technology person that is going to be able to handle all this, to take care of it. We're doing more and more online now. We're running a lot of different programs. It's very confusing. We had a downtime of, what was it, 2 weeks? With
A week.
A week?
A week, yeah.
With email, because all of our stuff currently goes through the school, and the school technology staff was a little bit overwhelmed, I guess, of that week, and they had a problem and burned something up, and so all our stuff was down too, and the way we operate now, it's very difficult to take care of things, because, I mean, people even can pay online, they can do a lot of stuff through the town services, so, but our email is down completely for that whole week. So Chris, technology guy now, he brought in a couple of different companies, Microsoft and Google, that had services that we could, they have special government services that you can have emails, and it wasn't that much of a difference in cost. It was a little more, but it was a lot better system. I know the system we have now has been difficult for me, and I've heard a lot of complaints from other people using it, so.
The next resolve talks more about that.
Yeah. Okay, so anyway, that we suggested that we put a technology line in the budget. And, the next line is when you're gonna,
Yeah, this line creates the capital improvement, or this resolve creates the capital improvement
right,
budget line and transfers all the current and planned, IT
Planned,
expenses into
expenses,
that,
right.
into that fund.
so we know where we stand with that right now, what's already been funded. Like, some computers, future purchases are already funded through departments, but we're just gonna move them into the technology line, so that we know what we already planning on doing, and then we know what we have to add to it to make it
And I'm going to do an inventory, townwide inventory of what we have and how old it is and what kind of shape it's in. So we can plan what we need. And if a department head comes and says we need a computer, I can eventually look at it and say, well, yeah, it's 6 years old, yeah, you do need a computer. Or it's a year old, what do you maybe needs to be repaired, or what's going on with it.
It's a better way to keep track of our systems
Right.
and the ages.
So
And
the way it is right now, they request it, and then, you generally, if there's not a reason not to do it, they do it, they get it. Or again, like Mike said, it's already fried, so you have to replace it that day.
I think that's mostly what happens.
That's generally what happens, yes. So it's
Run to
happened
failure.
twice since I've been here.
As part of the in-depth study, the finance, our finance director as well as Mike are to get together. There's been money allocated into office supply. There's been money allocated into equipment reserves for certain technology upgrades. And we've already passed that in the budget.
Yeah, the next set of sheets
So
are
we want to
listed.
capture that money that we passed in the budget and transfer it over into this IT line. And as soon as you find them, you'll see resolves come through on
Right.
the paper, and that's what it's about. And a little bit of the background, correct me if I'm wrong, but when the middle school was built, and the town hopped on board with the school as far as the online service was concerned, it was because of the T1 line.
It came with a package.
Right,
Which
and
was
the
expensive at the time.
Right, and the technology today has advanced past that, so it's advantageous for us to get our own stuff down here now.
We don't actually need a T1 here, do we?
No.
I mean, we don't have
Nope.
that kind of stuff that we're
Don't
putting on.
need it at all.
And that's part of the longer-term plan in this process. We're kind of at the baby steps here.
Yep. Anyway, so I guess this first resolve is basically to make that technology line.
Right, and the next
Yeah, the next one-
page is connected to this resolve list what the planned expenses are in IT. It lists I pulled from other departments and will go into this new CIP one.
The only question I'd have is each department responsible for bringing their IT request to the budget workshops?
Mhm.
Because I'm just concerned that, if you got a whole bunch of money in this IT technology thing there, and people start fighting over where it needs to go, as opposed to having each department have their own IT
Well,
capital improvement plan.
That's why we would control that as far as where it ends up going. Plus, we're gonna have a better replacement policy, so we don't let stuff get quite so old.
Right.
Right now, we got a lot of stuff that's really old and very outdated, and I guess XP, we
Well,
actually,
we still have a Windows 95 machine.
yeah,
in
I mean,
town.
and it's not gonna be supported anymore.
Well, XP won't be supported next year.
Right.
And we have a
And
lot of XP.
Every
machines.
machine in this office is XP right now.
Yeah.
So we might be in some issues there if, we'd have to change all the operating systems on them. Maybe it's a good time to change the machine too,
Yeah, we should get on a schedule where we replace a couple computers every year.
At least.
Yeah, at least. So that's what this inventory will do. It'll let us see what we have. For one thing, we don't know what we have. And then we'll get an idea of when it was purchased, what's on it, how up to date it is. So when a department head comes and says, I need to replace my computer, I can look and see, well, yeah, your computer's, X years old, and
Would this also cover dispatch equipment?
yes.
Dispatch, really?
I think everything.
Yeah, dispatch was
Yeah.
pulled, because they're planning to replace they were planning to replace their server. And that
Oh,
was
they're
pushed back.
dispatching of computers, yeah.
Yeah, the
Oh,
computers.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
computers.
Yes.
Okay.
And it'll also take place of the digital cameras on the waterfront.
Yeah, because right now there's no line for that. It won't include the public access services at this point.
Right, because that's a separate thing too.
Right.
Yep.
And the intent is, once we, if this passes, that all the budget lines that are there now in capital improvement in each department will be brought over into this.
Right, if it's to do with computers and printers and things like that. Yep.
Okay, how would the council like to proceed?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the resolve. Anything further from the public? Byron, you got any comments, seeing your,
I think it's a great idea.
okay.
It's something that the police department has a rotating replacement for their computers, but even using it, it's not uncommon to have a 5 or a 6-year-old computer. It may have the more current updated operating system, but the electronics themselves is getting old on a lot of, and it's just because we replace one at a time, and I'm sitting here counting them as I think there's like 8 or 9 in the PD, and if you do that, you can't wait 9 years to replace a machine.
Right.
It doesn't, they don't, the electronics isn't good enough to do that. So I think this is a great idea, and in fact, Mike and I had spoken about it at one time, about doing something like this. I think it's a great idea.
Okay, how would the council like to proceed? Oh, no, anything further from the council?
There we go.
We already proceeded.
Senior moment. Anything further from the council? All those in favor? Opposed, motion passes.
The other thing is, you won't have to have me or someone like me come down and say, I want to buy a new computer every time. Like we used to do.
And I guess the next one, you're gonna go on?
Yeah, item 12 is consider resolve 2014-30 to accept the recommendations of Finance Committee and transfer $1,200 into the capital improvement informational technology infrastructure account for upgrades to the town information technology infrastructure.
And I already discussed that in the last part, but that was to upgrade our email system. And we discussed going with
Google for government.
Google for Government. And their system costs $2,000 a year. It's paid on an annual basis. And currently our system costs $800 and change a year. So it is a $1,200 increase.
And then the other option was to go with Microsoft, and it was nearly $3,000 a year.
Yeah, that was
But our
almost
28, yeah,
2,900.
29. Our current system is kind of a hodgepodge of different services, and it causes problems at times. Emails, they get lost, or they don't go out. And that a lot of times, we'll get errors that say that you can't send it. It's because the two different services don't talk to each other very well, and this would eliminate all of that. It would also let us do a lot more sharing amongst all the computers in the town network, so it would help us facilitate a better communication and better collaboration among the different departments and among within a town hall.
And where are we transferring this money out of? Is it in the budget?
No, it's coming out of
The undesignated.
designated.
We don't already have some money in the budget for computers in the...
Well, I want to take a look at that, because the last resolve has $2,000 for website optimization, and I don't know what that is. I don't know what was planned for that. It was put in there several years ago.
Yeah.
So we may be able to use that money. So I need to figure out what exactly that is for.
So that's why we'll leave it open from where we transfer the money from, if you can find that
Yeah, I mean,
$2,000.
Do you want to table this until we find out where that $2,000 is? It's just a transfer.
Well, we had this discussion at the
Yeah.
Finance Committee, and I brought it up, okay, but they want to put the money in the account so that they can do this, and then they're gonna go around and find this other money. So, discussion's already been had, okay, they want the money in there, they want $1,200 in there so they can pay the one-time fee to Google, and then they're gonna go.
Our
scrape up the
renewal
other
is
money,
coming up
so.
soon on, it's
Well,
every quarter?
we're trying to get, we did find out that it wasn't quarterly like we thought. It's
Oh,
an
it wasn't.
annual, but we're trying to see if we can get out of that.
Oh,
So-
okay, so that was missing, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we had some information that was
Yeah.
a little off, so.
But $1,200 out of the undesignated fund is a penny.
Yeah.
It's nothing compared to our undesignated fund thing. And if you're gonna start up a new line in the budget, you might as well throw some startup money in there for unseen costs.
Well, I'll come to you next month with probably that very resolved, because I'll bring the
Transfers.
transfers, as that were listed in that last resolve, along with
Right.
the appropriations to cover those.
Because the other thing the finance committee is gonna do, which this falls into it, is we have to look at these line items of what we're gonna appropriate every year. And what's gonna be a cap, so that there isn't a big pool of money for them to go running into. So this is basically just startup money for that line item, so they can get the emails and the communications going now. And like Mike says, we'll see the resolve on the other. But this is a perfect example. You're gonna have a new line item, and the finance committee's gonna have to sit down and say, all right, on this line item, we'll allocate so much a year on the need, on our current need. It'll be reevaluated after a couple of years, see what your need is at that point, and it will be, a ceiling will be attached to it, that you can't put any more than this amount of money in it. So it won't grow past what we need.
I didn't think the money was that great that we couldn't start this program by doing that. That's my opinion. So,
Yeah.
it may not be everybody's opinion, but that's what was mine.
No, I don't think it's that big of money. It's probably a great idea, but, I just hate to open up a can of worms that next time we're gonna be transferring $5,000 and we're gonna get this.
Right.
So, anyway, how would the council like to proceed?
So
So
we're gonna-
moved.
Are we gonna name where the money comes from? Is it gonna come from reserve right now, for now?
That's what the resolve says.
Okay.
Okay.
That's, yeah. I'll second it.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve the resolve. Anything further from the public? Anything further from the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Okay. We got two items here that were not on the original agenda, but they are on the revised agenda. So why don't we treat them as if item not on the agenda?
Make a motion to take up an item not on the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Anything further from the council on this? All those in favor? Okay, motion passes. Okay, the first one is consider resolve R 2014-31 to transfer $7,587.71 from the Recreation Revenue Reserve to Diversions and Challenging Choices Fund account. Michael.
This involves Barbame's program that at the end of the fiscal year, that account, there was a shortfall in it because they had lost a grant and had a grant funding reduced. And this would simply cover that loss. There is an issue that will occur again at the end of this current fiscal year. But this year, my recommendation is to pull the money out of the Recreation Reserve account. But I think for next year, we can look at different options, because there are some legacy funding streams that I think could be looked at, because they don't make sense with what we're doing now. For example, Ron Gross is part of his pay is paid out of the recreation assistant line, and he isn't a recreation assistant anymore. I think at one point he might have been, but there is money there. And for example, Barbames managed the pool this year, but none of her salary was pulled out of the pool fund, and that could be looked for next year, even this year.
Yeah, because the 04 account is the maintenance, and that's where Ron has been working for years. These are things that I should have probably brought up earlier and straightened them around, but as time went on, I knew which accounts, everything's above board and everything. But I underestimated, as far as Bob's budget this year, is that we thought that we were going to get the $3,000. We've been getting the $3,000 every year for her. They just cut that out. And now she's going to lose the $18,000 after June, so that'll be completely out. So we're looking at, and I'll be retiring at the end of June, so there'll be a little few extra bucks there, maybe, the things, but I didn't probably worry too much about it. I probably should have, but because we have a recreation reserve account, and we've got quite a bit of money. What that money is money that, when I first came here, we had, like, for instance, $7,600 in the youth athletic account. Right now, we have 66, 38 years later. So Raj, I said to Raj, either we increase it or anything above that I raise for revenue, I'll put into this account. And it's accumulated through the years. And there's a number of things that I'd like to do with it, and things that I'll suggest, via council approved, but it doesn't take any more money out of the taxpayers. This is money that we have, and things are starting to cost more. People are being asked to pay more for our program, so we could take money from that reserve to help these kids who can't afford some of the things. But you've taken $50,000 out of that account. I know years ago you didn't realize it, but probably most of you weren't here anyways, that they put a pipeline up there at the ball field, and they took $50,000 out of that rec reserve account. So, in that, because we figured it went to the skating rink, and it went to the ball fields and stuff like that.
How much is in the rec reserve account now, roughly? How much is in the rec reserve account now?
I think 90-something thousand that we turned in through the years.
What is this? Grants? I'm sorry.
So the grant money is what Barb's being paid for. It's like, she has the diversion program that she has, and that's helping these kids. So she used to get about $21,000, $22,000 for that program.
So that was reduced or eliminated?
No, that was reduced.
Reduced.
Yeah, but it will eventually be eliminated unless they get more funding from the state level, and they're trying to do that right now.
Right.
So
What is this diversion challenging choices?
that's the program that Bob's is involved in. That's any kids who have trouble and they get in trouble with the law, instead of having something put on their records, they go through Bob, and she runs a wonderful program, and goes over a lot of films, teaches kids about drug abuse and all this, and
It's a first-time offender type
Yeah.
It's a
thing.
really
Right.
good
Yeah,
program.
it's a
it's a great, it's a great.
Yeah, I've seen it in action, and
It
it's,
saves the town a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I wish the parents, I wish it was open to, I'd see all the parents in the high school, whatever, to experience, because they say, well, it's not gonna happen to my kid or whatever. You don't know, and there's a lot to learn from it. And she's very, she does a great job in dealing with the kids. So,
But hopefully there'll be funding coming from the state down the road, because this is such a good program.
yeah,
But if not, we gotta think about doing it as a community anyway.
yeah. And that, yeah. that's it.
Tim, what will that account be short this year?
In that account this year coming?
Because you said it was
It'll
short
be even
this year,
more, yeah, it'll
and
be
then-
even more.
or last
Probably
year and then this
it
year
could
as
be
well.
short over $10,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
And
I
like I
think,
said, I have the money in my reserve account, that one we talked about, and then when I retire, there'll be money saved that way too.
but that won't be until
No, I realize
next
that.
year, but that won't help
But,
this year.
no, but I feel comfortable having that reserve account, that money we've raised, it won't come from the taxpayers, or just money that we can just carry over. Plus, we turned in over 22,000 from the record department this year back in, so,
And I think we can do some things, as I said, with
yeah.
where we're paying current employees to make up that difference as well, rather than pulling it out of reserve.
Right.
Okay, thank you, Tim. How would the council like to proceed?
so moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the resolve. Anything further from the public? Further from the council? All those in favor? Opposed, motion passes. The next item is item 14, consider resolve R 2014-32 to transfer $52,359.38 from general surplus undesignated fund balance to sick vacation fund balance account.
This is something that is done periodically to cover our reserve account to pay out sick and vacation time. In 2011, it was not done for some reason. It was simply an oversight by Debbie. When Catherine took over, since it was not done in 2011, there was no process in place to do it, so she didn't do it. And then she caught it this year preparing for the audit. So this is 3 years of coverage. If you look at the resolve, the total that we're short is $56,788.23. But due to turnover in personnel and staff have reached their 20 years of service, there's a net reduction in that, what we need, of $4,428. That's why we only need to transfer $52,359.38. And this is a very smart thing the town to have, because a lot of communities don't budget this, and then when they get in trouble when people retire and.
This wasn't caught on the audit though before?
No, the auditor missed it. And we've talked to the auditor about it, and they think they know why they missed it.
Okay.
And we've got an audit coming up next week, I believe.
Right,
and that's
So
how
it's
this was
probably
discovered.
Pretty good. that we
They
get
won't
this
miss it
taken care of.
again.
No, Catherine catches that stuff.
How would the council like to proceed?
So moved.
I second it. I don't
We have
see
a
any
motion
other
and
choice.
seconded for approval of resolve. Anything further from the public? Anything further from the council? Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, what, this termination, what's the percentage on that? Do you know, Mike?
After 10 years, I believe it's 20% of their balance, and after 20 years, it's 40% of their balance.
Of the sick time that they
So, yeah,
have?
vacation
Sick and
time, right.
vacation time.
Mhm.
How's that compare to other towns? Anybody got any idea? That sounds fairly generous to me.
It is generous. It is
And
generous.
I just wonder,
As somebody that worked for a town down that way, I got 0% of that. So,
Other communities I've known, it's generally not based on a percentage, it's based on like a number of hours.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. You get a
what I
third or
thought.
something, yeah.
I wonder if we shouldn't take a look at that. I don't mean it necessarily interferes with this resolution, but I wonder if that shouldn't be looked at to see
Mhm.
if we want to keep it that way. That would go, what, to the Finance Committee eventually?
Probably, yes.
They don't need anything right now necessarily, but at least I think maybe we should take a look at that and see how it stacks up with other towns.
Okay. The only thing I'd like to say is that tonight, we have probably hit the reserves, recreation reserves, the general fund surplus for about $60,000 that wasn't originally in the budget. You know, we've got to, it's good that we're finding these things that, because the auditors will eventually find them, but I'm concerned we keep robbing from that fund after the fact, so. But anyway, we've got a motion on the floor and a seconded,
Well, you saved the 230.
huh?
You saved the 230. We got to use it up. Things happen.
Yeah, I know. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes.
Byron has a question.
Okay.
Byron.
Oh, yeah.
Just a comment on the previous item. That's a union negotiated item, and it was built up over the years, and it went to the current percentages about 12 or 15 years ago. It was quite a while back that they went up. It's been a progressively argued for thing in previous union negotiations. That's how it got to those numbers. It was a number that came up through banging heads because the union wants 100% and the town wants 0, and you know. But again, the item has always been whenever the union has asked for either extra holidays or more vacation, the argument that the town has always used is that the need to fund it with this money just grows exponentially over the years, because every year you have to keep funding the higher and higher level. So I was surprised that the auditor never found this, because it's a very kind of a glaring goof, because it absolutely has to be funded by statute. You have to fund that money. Whatever you have for a vacation, sick time cost of all your employees, you are required to have a separate fund to cover specifically that money.
that is correct.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of cities and states and federal government is not doing that.
You're darn right there
Because
is.
they're not doing that, yes.
And luckily, we have a finance person that could find it.
Okay, item 15, consider issuing licenses and permits, if any.
There is none.
Oh, thank you.
I was just curious,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Mayor, if our recreation director thinks that this is directly tied to his retiring in June, that we're looking...
All right, item 16, report from the town manager.
I'll highlight a few items in my reports. The 52 Central Street, on July 14th, the 30-day notice passed its 30 days, and at that point, our attorneys were directed to move forward with the forcible entry and detainer action. The next available hearing for that is September 5th at 2:30 p.m. At that point, it'll go before a judge, and depending on if the person living there contests it or not, they'll make a ruling or have a hearing. We'll have to have a witness at that hearing. It'll either be myself or Ann, who does the taxes. I have spoken to her case manager about this issue, and she's been directed not to speak to me, so I could only get very limited information, but they are continuing to work on fixing that situation.
And we didn't think this was going to happen?
I was told several times she would be bringing the money into the council.
Oh, yeah.
2 council meetings ago.
I heard through the grapevine otherwise.
Okay. I'll give you an update on Bangor Gas. Things are moving forward slowly, as the newspaper reported today. We had a meeting today, and they're currently, their projected time where they will have gas hooked up is the first week of October now. I think that's very,
Shall we say late?
well, I think it'll be much later than that.
Yeah.
And once the gas is hooked up, then they have to go back and fix all the holes they've dug in our streets. So
Here in the middle of it.
I anticipate it will look like Bangor did last winter, but that's just me.
This is exactly what we were trying to avoid last fall, because they wanted to start so late and said they could get it done. And this time we started early, and they're still in the same
Well,
situation.
They don't
No,
start.
they promised.
They don't start work till 10 o'clock in the morning most days. So
Wow.
But they were also going to start like May 1st, and they didn't get started, what, until July?
July, yeah, they
Right.
started several weeks late.
Did they talk at all about the location of the pressure reducing station? I hear there may be a little glitch with that situation.
I have not heard that, but I did hear in our meetings with them. They told us that they'd already purchased the station. That was not accurate. They are currently getting bids on the reduction station, and they anticipate that they'll make a selection for purchasing the reduction station. Their goal was to do that next week. Once that's done, it'll take 4 to 6 weeks for it to be built and get here.
They actually told us they had it there.
Well, we saw it supposedly. They had a guy outside the window polishing it up while they were talking to us.
That's terrible.
That's what you saw.
Yeah.
Smoke and mirrors.
That was a model.
I mean, Bangor Gas.
That was a model, I think.
But I just heard, again, through the grapevine, you never know, but the location of where they had agreed with Verso to put the pressure reducing station, there is Smelt Brook runs underneath that
Yes,
location
that's
of the
true.
culvert, and they don't want to put the pressure reducing station on top of the culvert in case they have to, well, if they have to move that culvert and redirect the stream, you don't do that overnight.
Well, they knew that. I mean, that came up a year ago, and they knew
You gotta
that.
have a permit process from the DEP, and
I was under the impression that they had taken care of that. Because that came up last year.
I think we need to address that, because
Yeah, they didn't.
Oh.
we can
mention-
run all the piping we want in town if there's no.
Been my past experience with Bangor Gas, you can address anything you want with them, but it ain't gonna help.
They are coming to the council at the next meeting in August to talk about where they're sitting. So we had requested they come here today, or today we requested they come here at the next meeting.
The 29th?
Yeah. Let's see, you approved the BBHCC director tonight. Customer satisfaction surveys, as you probably read in the paper today, that's something I am implementing. We'll be talking about it next week, and hopefully by the end of this month, beginning of September, every department will have surveys for people to fill out whenever they have any dealings with the town, and it'll be for every department, including me and all the offices up in this building and throughout the town, to get people's feedback on what we're doing right and what we're not doing right. The Perry's Landing fountain is now working. We got it fixed yesterday. Route 46, that's continuing. It's progressing along very well. Sometime in August, they're going to be coming through town to do the PM wrap. I believe the plan was beginning tomorrow to start doing the under layer for the alternate route. So hopefully by the end of next week, that will be done, just in time for the PM wrap to come through. Again, as you know, next week on the 13th, we're having a staff retreat from 8 to 1, and the department heads will be answering the phones in the town office.
But not collecting money.
No, not collecting. They won't be touching a dime. They won't sign their name to a thing. And the next Thursday is our next concert at the waterfronts.
Okay. All right, item 17 is discussion items. I'd like to have, before we get on the two items on here, evaluations. We need to set a date for your evaluation, Mike. We are going to do that, was it next Thursday? What we were talking about? We have to have it at least a week in the paper, right? So can it be next Thursday?
Yeah,
It doesn't have to be in the
reviewing
paper.
him in front of the public.
No.
Well, don't you have to at least say that you're going into executive session?
They have to have notice of the meeting. You
Okay.
can do it as early as next Thursday, yeah.
Okay. Is that okay with the council, next Thursday?
That's fine with
Yeah,
me.
sure.
6, 7 o'clock?
6 is good.
Yeah, 6 is
Yeah.
good with me.
6?
Yep.
Okay, 6 o'clock next Thursday? Okay?
Next Thursday?
Okay.
Go.
And also, Mike, I don't know if you've actually done any evaluations of the department heads since you've been here?
I'm in the process of doing that now.
Okay,
so.
okay, all right. That's all I have. Okay, first item is Poet Laureate.
Yeah, that's been brought up by a couple of council members, and I investigated it, and there's nothing in the state code that prevents towns from naming a poet laureate. So, but there's no process in place for it here in town. But what I included was the state process for naming a state poet laureate, and it seems like a good process that if the town wants to name a poet laureate, would make sense to follow.
Just change the term, the state to Bucksport, right?
More or less, yes.
Okay. You want to take a look at that tonight and see what you think? I know it's something you're very,
Okay, so what should I look into?
just see if all this procedure looks like something that we can do, and
Okay, yes, I'll be glad to.
then we'll go from there.
We'll get back to your next meeting.
Or sooner. Okay, you have anything else on there?
No.
Okay. Item B is department reports. I assume we have them all here.
Yep.
We do have the treasury warrants and.
Okay, I thought so.
Yeah,
I thought they were
They're in
there.
here, yeah. Yeah, at the bottom of it, all right. Okay, any other discussion items? Anyone? Okay, item 18.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second. Do that, Robbie. Right on time.
We have motion and seconded for adjournment. All those in favor? Opposed, motion passes.